Fuck being a girl, I'm a bad man.
Yeah, what is that song?
I
It's
don't know.
on TikTok like crazy.
That's another thing too, is it annoys me is that like there's just
Well,
like
and
these
it's crazy,
songs that I
man.
just hear.
And now, um, it's like super influential to like the top charting songs now.
I
Like
believe
that
it.
the rebirth of Jason Derulo is solely because of
Oh
TikTok.
my god, he is having a rebirth. Hang on, I'm gonna let this guy out. You want out, buddy? I tried to get you out earlier. I knew you'd do this.
Well, like just because you've never heard of the guy for how many fucking years, and then
Yeah.
that savage love did somebody break your
Oh,
heart?
that's him. I didn't even.
That's him. Yeah,
I heard that song so many fucking times.
yeah.
Jason Derulo.
Yeah.
Alrighty, welcome everybody to another episode of the West Loop here. It's gonna be the last episode in this particular format. We're changing things up here. We'll give you more details about that at the end of the show here. But how you doing, Cam? How you been this week?
It's been a pretty good week. Can't complain. I've had some holidays, so been able to
Ooh,
try and sleep in and just relax. It's been good.
nice, nice. Hunker down and get through the cold wave. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's been shitty, man.
Yeah, it's
It's
pretty
been so
fucking
fucking
miserable.
cold here.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's been just as cold there, but
Oh
holy
yeah.
fuck.
It's like consistently minus at least minus 20, minus
Yeah,
25. Yeah. Although
yeah.
I haven't had to plug in the car and she started every morning, so I'm impressed.
Same, yeah.
It's
We
my
plugged
first
in the
winter
other
with this
car,
guy.
but
Nice,
nice.
nice. But yeah, so I guess we'll roll right into 93 to infinity. Things happening in our lives. I didn't have much for this week. We'll probably blow right through this one, but I don't know. I can remember this. I guess it was this week, February 17th, 2014, that Jimmy Fallon took over the old Tonight Show.
Yeah, I totally remember. I remember watching the first episode in our house.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that being a pretty big deal.
Well, I remember, yeah, we were like a late night TV house for a while there. We'd watch like Conan and fucking Jimmy Kimmel and all
Yeah,
that
we were
shit.
right into it. Yeah. Well, and I remember like there was some controversy around it too because I remember wasn't originally Conan supposed to get it?
Well, yeah, no, Conan had the Tonight Show
Oh, okay.
or something like that, and then Jay Leno basically like kind of threw his weight around and basically wanted it back, kind of thing. And so Conan got it canned, I'm pretty sure, over it because he was like, "Fuck you." And then Jay Leno took it over for a bit, but then he only had it for like a year or two, and then it was done again. And then I
Right.
think Jimmy Fallon took over from him. I might be wrong. I don't know. That's my loose recollection of it, but
Right. Yeah, because then I remember Conan's new show was done through Comedy Central
yeah, or like TBS, and
or
then
TBS.
in Canada that's the Comedy Channel or whatever, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't on like your prime time, nighttime, like
No, he wasn't on like a
hosting
network
channel.
anymore. No,
Yeah.
he was on a cable channel.
Right.
But yeah, and then here Jimmy Fallon's still trucking, and like I don't know, it's weird just looking back on that. Like he was just the guy on SNL that always fucked up the sketch by laughing,
Yeah.
and now he's like every resistance mom's dream. You know, like I don't know. Him and Kimmel definitely took on like during the Trump years, like they kind of just like took on the like liberal jokester kind of mantle. And
Totally. I feel so more Kimmel than Jimmy. I could be
yeah,
or more Kimmel than Jimmy. That doesn't
you're
make sense.
right.
More Kimmel than Fallon.
Yeah,
But yeah, Fallon
more Jimmy
definitely
the
played his
Jimmy.
part. Yeah. Fallon definitely played his part into it for
Definitely.
sure.
Well, I mean, he got in shit. Remember that clip of him like ruffling Trump's hair?
I think so. Honestly, I don't know if it.
I think it was like during the election or the lead up to it in like 2016. But yeah, I remember people just shitting on him like you hosted a fascist.
Oh, God.
You tussled his hair, and I don't know. It's just weird looking back on like back when comedy was kind of separate from politics a little bit,
Yeah.
and now it's just they've kind of become one and the same. You can't really escape it. But
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it killed my watching of late night host shows because like I don't really think I think I stopped watching before. Well, I did stop watching before Trump. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
really know what caused that. I think not having cable, I'm sure, contributed to it.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
I still now will always occasionally check clips, but I don't know if I'm like I don't know. I find with Jimmy, same with James
Ugh.
Corden, whatever the hell his name is.
Yeah, I can't handle
Like
that guy.
they've developed interesting segments where it fits that YouTube kind of formula where you can just click and you can just watch that. And to me, you're getting everything you would need to get from watching their episodes,
Well,
anyways.
exactly. Well, that's the thing. It's like those late night talk shows are like kind of an outdated format from before YouTube, and it's interesting
Yeah,
that I think you're right that like the way they write the shows and like plan them is like they're almost more focused on getting YouTube views after the fact than they are about whatever viewership on the
right.
channel, right? Like,
And so like Jimmy has his like what's in the box segment, which is always pretty big. And then James Corbin has his one where he like it's like a truth or dare kind of thing where like they spin this wheel of or not spin the wheel but like there's this like table of just disgusting foods and you have to either tell like a truth statement or eat the food.
Jesus.
And yeah, I've seen both. They're entertaining. I'll give it that. But whereas as Kimmel, I don't know. Like Kimmel hasn't. He doesn't really do as much of that. I kind of appreciate Kimmel in some ways because of that. But he has his own segments that have him bigger on YouTube. Like I think just with like Guillermo and shit like that. Guillermo, I think, is probably the funnier guy on all the late night. That guy's fucking hilarious. His like
Yeah,
little sidekick dude.
I think so. Yeah, probably.
And then you had because I remember watching Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, or is it
Yeah,
Late
before
Night?
he took over the Tonight Show, you're
Yeah.
right. Yeah, he was on late
And then
night.
so he took over Tonight Show, and then he got Seth Meyers to take over Late Night.
Yes, yeah, that's what happened. Yeah.
Um, which I don't know. I can't say I've watched a single fucking episode. I'm not a big Seth Meyers fan to be honest.
Nah,
So.
he's okay, I guess. I don't know. It's just once you kind of like, I guess it's the behind the scenes stuff that really killed it for me with that kind of stuff. Is like, both with all the drama of shuffling people around, it's just like, oh, it's just basically a who's who in NBC, right? Like you do your time at SNL, and then maybe you'll get promoted to this.
Yeah.
And it's all
Well,
kind of
and
internal and
it's funny because they basically gone with the past two with those. They've gone with your bigger Weekend Update guys,
mm-hmm.
which is essentially SNL's take kind of on late night host
A
shows.
little bit, or like news shows, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Which
between that and like, yeah, I don't know.
is personally my favorite. One of my favorite segments to do with SNL is Weekend Update. I think Colin
Yeah.
Jost and Michael Shea are actually literally like the best part of SNL for the
Yeah, I
past
don't
couple of
really
years.
watch it anymore. But my favorites are the fucking Norm Macdonald when he was on Weekend Update.
Oh yeah,
Holy
yeah.
fuck. Just reverts everything back to like Michael Jackson being a pedophile. No matter what the story is, he finds a way to like, bring it back.
Yeah, no, I think you would appreciate some of the current shit. Michael Che is hilarious, man. He's
Yeah.
really good.
I guess that's kind of almost what turned me off too. Is just like, and like, I guess when you say things like this, people think you like Trump. Obviously, I don't like Trump. The guy's a fucking maniac. But SNL became the like shit on Trump show. It's just like, okay, I get it. Like, it's like,
Yeah,
I kind of got sick of that. And
some of it was funny and like I like. I mean, and throughout this election, I found um, they shit on Biden a good chunk amount
yeah,
too, and Pence. I the original election though is where to me it was completely
oh,
toxic
horrible.
because they became Hillary supporters to the nines, and it was just like do what you guys have normally done. Like, and I think they did it better with this election. Is just make fun of both sides. Like,
Make
just
fun of
fucking
everything.
yeah, make fun of everyone. Like, why just sit there and support Hillary when you know damn well no one wanted Hillary anyways as
Mhm.
well, right?
Well, and
We've
that's what I
talked
mean
about
is like it
this.
kind of just like between the late night talk shows or SNL or just basically all of like the hyper corporate media, like the really big stuff. Is just like during those election cycles, you kind of like it becomes very apparent that like, oh, these are just like, yeah, these are just the media arms of like
Well, and it
the
fucks with their
establishment,
viewership
right? Like,
because I know a lot of people that enjoy SNL, but when it gets political like that, like no one wants to watch.
Yeah, well, and even just like Alec Baldwin being on there, like his Trump wasn't even that good, but they fucking like he's on it he was on it
Yeah,
constantly. I was just like, oh my fuck.
yeah, and I think I don't know for sure, but I'm curious what went down with Jim Carrey with Biden because as soon as the election was done, Jim Carrey tweeted out, he's like, "My time as Biden's done. Like, I want to thank SNL for having me on," and he just
Mm.
quit, which is interesting. I don't know if it was like a disagreement or if he just legit just like wanted to be on for the election process, but not be there Biden for the
Either
next
guy,
so
yeah,
long.
it's probably a bit
Um,
of a mix.
it was
I
enjoyable though.
from what I know of Jim Carrey, I know for a while there, everybody's like, oh, he's crazy because he says some crazy shit on red carpets and stuff. But now going back to those crazy things he says, he's like, I think he's actually kind of got shit figured out. I think this is me just projecting onto him, but I feel like that decision might have been like, I don't want to be a part of this fucking circus, you know? I came and I
Yeah.
did my thing, but I don't want to get wrapped up in it. Like, I think he's kind of beyond a lot of that
Well, he is. I mean, the
entertainment
guy's
industry
put in his
stuff.
fucking time, and he's done such a good job over the last 10 years of not being in the spotlight and kind of
Mm-hmm.
being able to just be that guy.
He just
Like,
does things that like intrigue him, really. Like,
yeah, and very minimal. Like,
mm-hmm.
honestly, like some of the best comedians in our time have done such good jobs. That look at like Eddie Murphy, man. Like, where the fuck has that guy been? Yeah, now he's blowing up again because Netflix is bringing back.
Oh yeah, Coming to America 2 or
Coming to
whatever.
America too. Which
Jesus.
I don't know. But like really, like you never heard of Eddie Murphy in the last 10 years that much at
No.
all.
I honestly, well, I think maybe some of that he pulled back, but I also think he kind of lost some of his bankability between like Norbit and like the Haunted Mansion and stuff. I think like
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
execs were
sure.
probably like, "Oh, this guy's losing us money. Let's stop putting him
Yeah.
as
I
a
guess
tentpole." But
but then you see that with fucking Adam Sandler and that guy still pushes out terrible
yeah,
movies.
he pushes out
Now,
turds, but he makes money on them still. Like,
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, Netflix gave him how much fucking money for all the movies he's been able to push out. And what's
his shit's like some
amazing
of the most
is
watched on Netflix, is it not?
yeah, I think so, yeah. And then yet he actually puts out a fucking awesome movie and
Oh, fucking Uncut Gems, is that what you're
Uncut
talking?
Gems, yeah, yeah.
Dude, yeah, that movie fucking incredible.
Yeah. No, I loved it. It was a great movie.
Didn't he say something? I think the Golden Globes or something like, if I don't get an Oscar, I'm going back to making shitty movies or something like that.
Yeah. Something like that, yeah.
Damn. No, he's so good at Uncut Gems too.
Yeah. No, it was a really good film.
But yeah, I don't know.
Um,
Just a little relic from an older time of late night TV being goofy dumb shit instead of just another fucking propaganda arm for the old Democratic Party, you know?
yeah, no, right.
And especially
Sure.
the more we watched it, I started to notice it's just like, oh, the guests are determined by whether they have a new thing coming out. Like it's always just like press tours and like they're here to talk about their new movie or their new
That's
book.
literally what it is.
It's just
And
an
generally
advertising hour, basically. Like,
within a week and a half at the most, they've hit all of them.
mm-hmm.
That's why I think I appreciated Conan so much, is because I think Conan kind of stepped away from that. Like I'm sure he still got a lot of the same people,
Yeah.
but it was different in its own way too.
It was like trying to be a comedy talk show rather than like,
Yeah,
a media talk show kind of. But yeah, I don't know. I wonder how long he'll be doing it. Probably for fucking ever. Old Fallon.
yeah, he's looking pretty old. I've seen some videos and I was like, holy fuck, that guy's aged a bit now.
Yeah, I think the
But,
past few years have aged everybody quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I'd say Jimmy Kimmel's probably your next to pack the bags.
Pack the bags in? Yeah,
Yeah.
probably. Yeah, and the only thing I grabbed for 93 to Infinity, uh, aside from that, is a little less lighthearted, but I don't know. I guess this is the first, in February 18th, 2010, was the first time that WikiLeaks published any documents from Chelsea Manning. And so I don't know. Do you know much about like WikiLeaks, Chelsea Manning, and all that at all? Really?
I don't know. I
It's a name you hear get thrown around in the fucking
yeah,
news.
I
all the
totally
time,
have
but-
heard it so many times, but I don't know a lot about it.
So essentially, she's like basically a whistleblower, right? She had some kind of position within the American Army. Okay, she was an intelligence an analyst, I guess, deployed to Iraq in October of 2009. So essentially, what happened is that she started downloading, like she was like viewing a lot of like communications between like U.S. operations and like other like foreign diplomats. And so basically, she just started downloading as much data as she could, and it basically painted a picture of how like America bullies other countries into like doing what it wants, essentially. And also, she documented a lot of the fucked up shit they were doing in Iraq. And so I guess she like tried to like take it to the New York Times, tried to take it to like Washington Post, and all of them were like, nah. And then so she took it to WikiLeaks, which was that website. I don't know where it was founded, but it's run by that Julian Assange guy, right?
Right.
And so he published it, and so it was February 18th. It was the first time that WikiLeaks published anything from her, and then throughout the rest of 2010 was just basically dumping all these documents from Chelsea Manning. And so yeah, it basically became like a huge legal battle. Like she was in jail for I don't know fucking how long over like the Espionage Act, which is like one of the few times it was ever used, but Obama threw her in jail essentially. Convicted by court martial in July of 2013 on violations of the Espionage Act. And yeah, it was in jail from 2010 to 2017, and then Obama commuted her sentence and she was out. But she was just in jail again because there's this whole trial for Julian Assange, the guy that ran WikiLeaks.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's on trial right now, and they wanted her to testify. And she said, no, I'm not going to testify against him. So they fucking locked her up in contempt for like a few weeks. And it was like, the conditions that she was in sounded fucking awful. Basically, like solitary confinement for weeks on end. Like,
Jesus
so it's just,
Christ.
I only wanted to bring it up because I think that was a huge switch where kind of in the past, they had to worry about information getting out, you know, and so they would like violently suppress people like this. They throw them in jail if you leak things, if you're a whistleblower, and they still do to an extent. But I think the tactic has changed. Now they're not so concerned about it because like nobody gives a fuck. There's so much information coming at people all the time, and so much fake news and misinformation, whatever you want to say. It's like they almost don't need to worry about covering things up because it just gets lost in the shuffle.
Well, yeah, and I think as much as fake news has hurt a lot of situations, it's benefited a lot of situations because now people just don't believe anything they read. I find not everyone, but a lot of people, and so that probably benefits them in the long run when legit shit does actually get leaked, and everyone's like, that's fake news.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of the switch. We went from like the old forms of information control, which was like having classified things, only certain people are allowed to see things, and then anybody that leaks gets punished, to now where it's so much of it is just like driven by like machine learning and stuff, like data and like algorithms and stuff. Like, so there's less and less human eyes even seeing this stuff, so the opportunity for leaks is lessened. And then if it does, you just call it fake news and move on. You know, you don't need that old-fashioned form of power. It's more like that soft power kind of thing.
Which, as much as that sucks, that shit that's important is just getting written off. I mean, it's good that people aren't getting fucking put into solitary confinement, which I know still happens, but maybe less.
Yeah, one would hope.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you still got this Julian Assange guy who's getting fucking.
But he's an interesting. He's the guy that owns like the Wu-Tang Clan unreleased Wu-Tang Clan album, right?
No, I think that's Martin Shkreli.
Oh, okay, I'm getting those guys mixed up.
Yeah. No, he's basically like an editor, publisher, activist kind of guy. He's from Australia, but
Right.
yeah, so he basically started WikiLeaks to be like, well, fuck, if nobody's going to publish the things that come out about what the powers that be are up to, I'm going to do it. And so, yeah, he gets the book thrown at him, right? So,
right.
Because they just hauled him out of that embassy, I think in Ecuador, the Ecuadorian embassy. He's basically holed up in there for like years, I think, just like living out of an embassy, like just like desperately avoiding trying to get extradited to the U.S. And I don't know. It's wild shit. I wish I knew more. Like I always feel bad bringing things to the table like this that I'm not super knowledgeable on, but it's not good, folks. And it's interesting. You'll see if you look up Chelsea Manning or Julian Assange, there's like a full court press in the press to like paint them as like awful, shitty people, and they might be, but that's not what's on trial, right? Like,
yeah.
So it's just interesting that fucking 10 years ago. I remember hearing about WikiLeaks and all that shit, and it's only
Yeah.
just wrapping up now, essentially. Like,
And these people are still suffering.
yeah, exactly. Still getting thrown in jail, still getting some fucked up shit.
Policemen don't do anything for murdering people, but these fuckers have been
Yeah, you post something
around.
online.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, you can beat the shit out of minorities as long as you got a badge. That's cool. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I did like the one note that was kind of funny that I liked is that to smuggle the data out, Manning put it on a like a burnt CD marked Lady Gaga in like a Lady Gaga CD case, and use that to smuggle it out. Because I remember reading something about a Lady Gaga CD in regards to that case, and I didn't know where that fit in, but now it makes sense.
That's wild.
So yeah, information is free, but not for everybody, kind of thing. Is the takeaway for that segment, but
Yep.
fun stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I did like. Have you heard anything? Let's move into the dumbest Burton of the week here. We'll talk about shit that's happening now.
Yeah, so you got a bunch of shit here.
It's mostly quotes. It's not a lot. It's just from this one fucking church.
Oh, okay.
Have you heard about them?
I feel like I
Grace
read
Life
a post
Church?
about it. Grace Life Church. I feel like I've seen a couple of posts on it, but I haven't looked a lot into it myself.
Okay. So yeah, they're west of Edmonton, but yeah, they've basically been in a fight. I think they first got like given a notice, an order of closure from AHS in like December. So I guess what happened is like the pandemic hit and they went along with everybody else doing like online services and stuff like that. But then when things loosened last like fall, summer kind of thing, they just started doing in-person gatherings again. But then when everything got locked down again in December, they're like, no, we're not doing it. We're just still having services. And so even when it was like you have to be at 15% capacity, they weren't following that. So basically AHS has been like giving them orders to close and stuff like that. And like RCMP went and attended a couple services just to see, and yeah, like no masks, like just like parking lot full, places packed. Just like no restrictions being followed. To the point where even the pastor got arrested for like defying public health orders and paid like a fucking $1,600 fine or something. Still at it, just still hasn't changed anything.
And they're still doing it.
Yeah, they're still doing it. Yeah, so he got a $1,200 violation ticket in December, and then he got arrested. Yeah, it's wild shit.
Huh.
Yeah. Oh, I guess they've been. He just got arrested just the Sunday before February 8th, I guess.
Again?
Yeah. No, that was the first time he got arrested. Was just
okay.
At the beginning of February here. So yeah, I guess 300 congregants showing up to the services.
Jesus.
But
and
yeah.
all he's had so far to pay is a $1,200 violation.
Yeah, a violation fine.
Why wouldn't they ticket anyone else that attended? Why just
I don't understand that either.
Like, yeah, he's liable because he's the one choosing.
He's the one putting on the event, I guess. But yeah, he was arrested and charged in contravention of Section 73 of the Public Health Act. Yeah, it's fucking wild shit, and I guess the cops just aren't doing anything because they're like not interrupting it out of respect or something, you know. But fuck. I think the thing that gets me the most is just basically where a lot of the outrage was coming from. Is that basically they're using like the stuff Kenny said earlier last year as like justification for it, essentially.
Yeah.
They have like a statement on their website, and it goes, they failed to lock back down. We did so recognizing that COVID-19 was much less severe than the government had initially projected. This sentiment was reflected in the assessment of the Premier of Alberta, who deliberately referred to COVID-19 as influenza multiple times in a speech announcing the end of the first declared public health emergency. So yeah, basically people are kind of giving them shit, and then also giving Kenny shit for kind of enabling this kind of behavior.
Mm-hmm. Well, because I feel like this church was probably referenced several times, because I remember when conversations about churches came up, it was just like, 98% of the churches have done an amazing job in following our orders. I don't want to discredit the religious communities when only a few have been disobeying the rules.
Exactly. And here's another quote from Kenny that this church keeps referencing in that statement. So I guess in the legislature on May 28th, Kenny said, "We cannot continue indefinitely to impair the social and economic as well as the mental health and physiological health of the broader population for potentially a year through measures for an influenza that doesn't generally threaten life, apart from the most elderly, the immunocompromised, and those with comorbidities." So he, in May, was doing the whole, it only kills old people, fuck it, open it up, and then, so they just keep referencing that as justification. Like, he's kind of giving them cover to just kind of do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
And so then it gets kind of more ironic when he's just talking out of both sides of his mouth, right? Like, Premier Kenny calls out COVID-19 truthers and anti-maskers. And then what did he say? "If you think this is a hoax, talk to my friend in the ICU fighting for his life. If you're thinking of going to an anti-mask rally, how about instead send me an email, call me all the names you want, send me a letter, organize an online rally." And so he's just like, you can't give these people ammunition and then turn around and be like, oh, actually, they shouldn't be doing that.
No, he's the problem, unfortunately. Like,
yeah,
he contradicts himself on so many occasions, and I'm pretty sure in the back of his mind, he knows how much this pandemic, not only has it fucked with the economy, it's fucked with his approvalness, and I think he's just panicking in the sense of, I need to appeal to both sides, which, I mean, let's be realistic, every politician does, but I do think he's legitimately worried that he's already fucked himself over.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think this was supposed to be like a gimme, right? Like, this was supposed to be just a fucking slam dunk for him on his way to, like, federal politics. Like, you come in, be a conservative politician in Alberta, and give the people what they say they want, and it's easy. Like, it should have been easy for him to come in, rile a bunch of support out here, and then make a run at federal stuff, right? And so it's funny that, like, all of a sudden the pandemic, something that nobody could predict, hits him in the middle of it. And now it's like, oh, buddy, you actually have to play politics now. You actually have to govern. And I don't think he was expecting to have to do that. I think he thought he could just coast on yelling about pipelines for 4 years and then...
It's interesting, though, because, like, you have, like, his buddy old fucking Ford in Ontario, and how lately they've done quite a different approach. And even in some of the talks, Kenny himself has actually talked down towards the other provinces that have had to enforce lockdowns to manage this situation, which I find kind of interesting.
It is. It's a very strange dynamic. I don't know. But yeah, so whoever fucking what the hell's that pastor's name? We gotta call him out. That's their dumbest burden of the week. Come on, give it to me.
I don't see his name
James Coates.
James Coates.
Yeah. Coates was back at the church Sunday delivering a sermon that was live streamed on YouTube. Large parts of the sermon were centered around persecution, the government, and theology. "I'm doing what I'm doing in obedience to Christ. I'm quite content to let the Lord decide himself whether or not this is persecution." So it's just like, I don't know, man.
And to the people that have died because of the pandemic, that's because the Lord wanted them to? Or
I guess, right? Yeah, you'd think that, like, the whole thing about, like, you know, being bigger than yourself and helping those less fortunate, kind of like sacrificing yourself to help others, that's kind of the ethos of the whole Christianity thing. You'd think maybe taking an economic hit to shut down to save the elderly and immunocompromised. That seems like a Christ-like thing to do, but okay. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, all right, Coates, you're our dumbest burden of the week.
Congrats, buddy.
Keep raging about persecution, I guess. Wow. You're basically getting hit with nothing. Nice.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think I just wanted to preface that just because, I mean, I don't want this show. We've already said this before. We don't want it to be the COVID hour. And I think we've done good. We haven't talked too much about it the past few episodes.
Yeah. It's hard not for it to come up.
Yeah,
especially when we do like political talks, because really you can't not talk about COVID when it comes to politics nowadays. So
it's part of the political terrain now, but
yeah,
I don't know. It's just interesting that we're lessening restrictions, and there's still people fighting those lessened restrictions, even to the point where they're just fucking openly defying it and having services and stuff anyway. And all this with like just this like ghost, this fucking specter looming over us of these new fucking variants. Like,
yeah, which I don't know. It's unfortunate. Like, and I don't know enough about the variants, but it's just like I read a BBC article yesterday or the day before, and it said the world needs to prepare to be shut down again due to UK variant, and that it's a matter of time before we're back to square one with this UK variant. And it's just
that's what I'm hearing.
I, as much as that could be the case, I do think there's a lot of fucking fear mongering going around with that too, because it's just like I don't want to sit here and sound like I'm supporting that, but I don't know. There's an element where it's just like I don't know. I think it's more just frustration and me being tired of where things are at in the world right now and where things are at in my life because of the pandemic. But
yeah,
it's just like I don't know.
Well, it's like I guess that's my biggest thing, and I'm not a fucking virologist or a microbiologist, so I don't really know the real nitty gritty of this. But from what I can tell, if this virus is mutating that quickly and it's been just kind of out and about in the populations and not being controlled, there's probably way more fucking variants than just two of them. Yeah. Like, I honestly think they're just like singling out a couple variants as like a scapegoat to cover for the fact of how fucking poorly they managed this. Mm-hmm. Like, when you fuck up and you don't curtail and contain the virus and it just gets to like incubate in the population, you're going to have lots of variants popping up. And so these are like 2 or 3 that they've identified and isolated, but there's probably way more than that. And I think just by them pointing like, actually, no, it mutated and this one's really scary and that's why we have to lock down again, rather than, oh shit, we've half-assed this for so long that it didn't work and we got to do it again. Like, I think it's like a cover for them.
And that's why I'm so fucking frustrated when it comes to Canada. We're and not that we're better than any other country. I'm not trying to come across that way, but the fact of the matter is, we're 33rd in the world right now in vaccines given. Mm-hmm. 33rd in the world. Like, that's fucked. This rollout has been a goddamn disaster.
Yeah.
And a little bit I've had conversations about it. It sounds like it's been narrowed down to the fact that Trudeau made a deal with China as compared to other resources on getting the vaccines. And it's just like, I don't know, man. If the focus, like, I know the focus needs to be on keeping us safe, but the focus needs to be put on getting people vaccinated. Like, the variants, as much as they are scary, so far every variant, whether it may decrease the actual effectiveness, still is covered under the vaccine, from my understanding. So,
as far as we know, and that's kind of the shit with the vaccine stuff, is we don't fucking know anything about it.
Yeah.
So, like, as far as like the actual rollout part, I don't know. I think maybe he should have. I'm not aware of any deal with China that he made. From what I understand is that like our government went off bidding and buying doses from basically anyone that would let us buy from them. But it's just like the actual industrial process of like rolling it out. They're hitting hiccups. Like, we've never made a vaccine of this type before or for this specific virus, and so there's going to be like manufacturing fuck ups along the way. And so I think it's a mix of like, like, we could have been manufacturing these here. Like, we had the capacity to make our own vaccines 15 years ago, and we sold that off and privatized it, and now we're waiting on other people to give it to us. So that's fucked up. We should just have that capacity at home. And then B, it's just like, well, if you're operating by market logic and you're a pharmaceutical company, are you gonna fucking worry about a country with only 30 million people like Canada, or are you gonna take some more lucrative deals and vaccinate larger populations? So I think at the end of the day, it comes down to fucking, I hate to say it, but like capitalism and the market logic of trying to like orientate
Yeah.
these things with the profit driven motive. That's, you're going to hit these strange fuck ups.
Yeah.
But then also, I think this mentality of like the vaccine is all we need. All we need is we're just getting the vaccine and magically things will go back to normal. Again, I'm not a fucking biologist, but from what I understand is like we don't know. Even like the 95% effectiveness rate is still just like preliminary early results. We
Yeah.
don't know if this protects you even a year later. And so, and also with the variant stuff, like again, there's so many variants. Sure, it might work for these specific two, but it keeps mutating. Like we don't know. Like it sucks. I hate the lockdown shit. But as far as like the science goes, everybody keeps saying trust the science. But like if you actually look at the science, like the only thing we know works is public health measures, shutting people down, like stopping the spread essentially. That's the only thing we know for sure works. With the vaccine, like we don't, the mRNA technology is new. It's a new disease that we don't know anything about.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of it, like I think they're overstating the effectiveness a little
Yeah.
bit.
No, and I think what, and we've talked about this, but I've talked about this like in several conversations. It's like, I think so many issues that go on in the world, whether that be a virus, whether that be drug policy, whether that be so many things, become a political issue. This is a
Mhm.
fucking health issue.
Exactly.
And the thing is like, honestly, I know that this is controversial, but you're right. Like, we pay income tax. We should be just shut down, be forced to be at home,
Yeah.
and everyone's paid a standard wage, and or rent freezes or whatever you can do, and then, I mean, and then like, fucking like, for those who disagree with that, like, you have to do something about it. And as much as I'm not someone for fines or fucking jail for that matter, the fact of the matter is we have to do something, or else we've half-assed everything for a fucking year.
Yeah.
And do we just want this to be our lives potentially for the foreseeable future? Like,
Yeah.
I don't get it. Like,
I mean, that's what we're looking at, right? Like, even the guy that designed the vaccine, like the lead designer, whatever the fuck, he said COVID's going to be with us for 10 years. Like, this isn't, we're not going to inject people with this and then all of a sudden it's going to go back to normal. Like, no, we're going to keep learning and things are going to keep changing. Like, and that was heartbreaking to hear for him to say, like, this is going to be a thing for fucking 10 years. But,
because my idea is I would rather shut down everything for 2 to 3 months and then ban travel everywhere. You just can't travel.
yeah.
And then we can at least sustain everything in our own country.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can travel even occasionally within our own country. Like, I know there's things that you that I'm not thinking about, like importing goods and stuff, where you're gonna have to have some necessary travel there.
Mm-hmm. Well, then
But
actually use essential to mean essential.
yeah, that's the thing. Like, this loophole, how people are getting to travel, is just beyond me. Like, I don't get it.
It's absurd.
And I don't know. Like, and I mean, I'm gonna sound hypocritical because I plan on traveling this summer within Canada,
Same.
but it's just like, I don't know. Like, I just don't know what we're gonna be able to do. It's just,
No, but I think I agree with that. Like, I mean, and that's, I don't want to just appeal to the science like it's some fucking higher power, but like, from what I understand, that is the only thing. That's the only thing to stop this spread is to just shut things down, and we can see it. Like, I keep bringing it up, but they're fucking partying in Wuhan, man. Like, just like,
well, and that's what I mean. I seen literally Lethbridge Global posted some article on China has narrowed down some more reasonings as to what started and how the pandemic happened in the initial stages of March of last year or something.
yeah,
And all these fucking comments are just people shitting on China. I fucking hate the news sources in this city because they just feed these people. Like, ban your fucking comments on your posts. Like, why?
No shit. Yeah.
What is the purpose of it? Like, and it's just like all these people are just sitting there feeding the shit. Like, no, dog, China planned this. China did this
Oh
to
my
us.
God.
It's like, I would kill to be in China right now. In some ways, in some ways
Yeah,
not.
that's the
But
thing.
just like in the idea of the fact of they did it right. They shut everything down, and yeah, a lot of fucking people died. We don't really know.
Hmm.
Obviously, we don't really know exactly what went down there. But the fact of the matter is they are enjoying life there because they shut the fuck down.
Yeah,
We don't know what a shutdown is here. People bitch now like
yeah.
this is nothing.
People talk about how we've been through a lockdown. We've not had one real lockdown yet. You could
Yeah,
literally go to the grocery store every day if you wanted to. That's not a lockdown. Like
yeah. Like
it's
you want to do a lockdown, you fucking have like food delivery service only.
that's what I mean. How many people do we have sitting around collecting checks in the fucking army reserves? Let's put them to work. We got a fucking military. What the fuck else does Canada use it for? Have them delivering food to people and keep it
Yeah.
like it would be so. It's so within the realm of possibility, and the fact that not only is it not happening, but people can't even imagine it is so fucking depressing to me.
Well, and I think we failed, and not that I have faith in our leader by any means, but we failed on dividing this on an element of provincial politics too.
Yeah. Well, and that's just the problem with Canada. Like our
Yeah.
constitution, there's so much stuff that's left up to like provincial responsibility that you
Yeah.
can't have like a coordinated federal approach to a lot of things. It sucks.
And I don't have faith in Trudeau to make the right decision by any
Mm-mm.
means, but
No, he's beholden to the same fucking economic interests as anybody else would be, right? And that's kind of what it comes down to is nobody wants to shut things down because you lose out on profits for this quarter. It doesn't matter to them by not shutting down, you basically lost out on profits across the whole year that you could have had if you did one quarterly shutdown, right? Like, but we just are so myopic and so short term in our thinking that
well, and not to mention how many businesses will never recover. They'll
no.
never happen again.
Whereas they
Whereas
could
if
have weathered a
everyone
two.
was forced, like your big fucking WalMarts and shit, they were forced to
Mm-hmm.
close too. And there was a standard situation where, like, obviously it was focused on giving these businesses money to still, still function. We wouldn't be in this situation. But now, who's gonna survive these? It's gonna be your big box stores. They're gonna be that they're gonna survive this, and you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
have the little guys just gone.
Yeah, essentially.
Like not all of it. I'm not generalizing it, but
No, but you're right. Like it's not in even we talked about it with the live music thing, right? Like so many little venues and stuff are shutting down that like there's so many industries that are just like going to be decimated even if we do come out of this into something normal, whatever that means. That's stuff that was built up over decades, you know, and like
mm-hmm.
it's just not going to come back. And
It's
I don't know.
definitely made me rethink a lot of things, like the importance of just like, I mean, we're looking at buying a house this year, and it's just like, I want to buy a nice house. I want to buy something I want because, like, I don't know when I'm gonna be able to fucking put money into traveling. Like, I don't want to be
Mm-hmm.
house poor by any means, but it's just like, fucking, I've spent more time in my home this year than I have any other fucking year in my life. So
No,
it's just
exactly.
like spend your money where it's important and where you're gonna. I mean, yes, it's important to plan for the future too, but
Well, that's basically all I've been doing is saving money, thankfully, with COVID. But even that, it's just. But no, what you said earlier is just like about how like we just need to like shut it down and like wait it out, you know, because like it might be better in the summer, and um, I think like that's our only option. Like the vaccine rollout has been bungled, so we can't rely on that. And even if it hadn't, we might not have even been able to rely on vaccines the way that people think we could, because like again, we don't know. Like so much of it's either it's preliminary data or it's just data they're not sharing. And also the people in charge of the data are the ones that select people for trials. So it's the pharmaceutical companies themselves. So of course they're going to select for data that presents it as being more effective because that's how they fucking generate their fucking profit. But there is a really good quick read in the progress report. It's like a Alberta publication. It's like a website, but like they do some pretty good work. And they do have like it's basically like a plea. It's just like we need to aim for no COVID before these variants really kind of decimate shit because their rate of spread and like the doubling is like I think it's every 9 days the cases of these new variants doubles. And so that implies that maybe they're more contagious. So before they become the dominant strain, while we still have this weaker original strain, that's when we need to shut things down. So they're basically like, shut shit down, bring us down to zero COVID, rather than waiting till the hospital beds get too full and then shut down. Like, what an insane metric. What an insane way to plan things. It's just,
Yeah.
when we're about to get overwhelmed, then we'll do something about it. Like, but yeah, like they make a good case in this progress report article. Who wrote it? Gosia Gasparowicz. But they're essentially saying like that's kind of the only hope we have right now, is to just like literally flatten the curve down to zero, not just plateau at a certain number. And then hopefully by that point we can start vaccinating people. But by bringing it down to zero, it's like we can almost kind of actually get to square one and then start trying to track and contact trace cases to prevent a fucking wave, essentially.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, the contract tracing has been so fucking overwhelmed that I'd argue how much contract tracing is really going on right now.
That's the thing.
And the general focus is going to be the variants, which is important, absolutely. But, I mean, if we want to talk about the coronavirus, the normal variant, and like the hospitalizations, if it's not hospitalizing people, it's doing nothing to this reopening system. And as much as I want things to get back to normal, it doesn't speak to any actual general case numbers. It speaks to hospitalization.
Exactly.
Numbers, which that could be a ticking time bomb in some ways.
Well, yeah, and it's like if you hit that kind of critical mass where it's like, okay, no, not as many people are in the hospital, but it's spreading and doubling, and then all of a sudden you kind of get to the point where all of a sudden that like 2-week incubation period, all of a sudden, boom, like they literally call it a wave for a reason, right? Like, and then all of a sudden the hospitals are just overwhelmed. And I guess everybody gets caught in this whole, they think solely about COVID. Like, well, it only kills this many people and yada, yada, yada. It's just like, yeah, but fucking decades of healthcare cuts means that our hospitals are like tuned to have just barely enough. Like, there's no slack in the system for like ebbs and flows of need. It's just like the absolute bare minimum that we can just to get by. So if, it's only 1% of the population, but if you tick that percent of hospitalizations up by 1%, boom, you've overwhelmed the fucking resources that we have available.
Well, and I think the biggest part too that frustrates me, and it frustrates everyone, I'm sure, but for different reasons. So I've seen a lot of the Alberta and BC overdose deaths as well as suicide deaths during this last year, and the numbers are crazy. Like,
horrible, yeah.
They well exceed the actual deaths in COVID. And immediately the people's reactions are, see, this is the problem. Like, this is fucked up. Like, why aren't we focused on this? It's like, again, that speaks to what we said at the beginning. If in 3 months they got this shit and then they closed it down, we wouldn't be in this situation. Don't blame COVID. Don't blame the government for how they've handled it in that way and just letting people run freely, and then people wouldn't overdose and people wouldn't commit suicide. That's ridiculous to think.
Yeah, and people were doing that before COVID.
Yeah, exactly. And
the numbers were going up too before COVID. So
the thing is I mean, the healthcare resources are so restrained right now that there's not resources for everyone. And so when on top of that you have this industry that's just fucking barely hanging on because they've been literally front line and center of this pandemic, you add in the fact that you have a mental health crisis and a drug crisis in that. Like, it's just like, well, of course that's gonna be a no-brainer. That's gonna happen. I mean, these people that are unfortunately in those situations, it's stressful enough as it is, let alone when you put a pandemic in their lives.
Exactly.
So, not that I'm undermining the numbers. It's as much as it's understandable. It's just sad that we weren't able to do anything quick enough to help those numbers.
Well, and that's kind of the thing. Is just like, well, so if you're like, if those people are arguing like because of being isolated, because of like economic downturn, people are losing their jobs, and not being able to pay rent, and it's stretching people out to the point of them fucking killing themselves. How fucked up is it then that our entire way of life is predicated on being able to buy and sell things on a fucking market. Like, does that not like open your eyes? Like, oh, as soon as one disease comes in and messes the fact that people can buy things, and then that causes like mass strife and suffering, that's pretty fucked up. Why is our entire economic system predicated on this fucking market then? You know, it's just like,
Yeah.
if all it takes is one little fucking pandemic to just absolutely throw everything completely off balance to the point where people are like in such despair that they turn to like dangerous drug use like that, then that says something about the underlying society, not just the pandemic that hit it. And yeah, and I guess that's what I mean is just like the numbers going up in the hospitals isn't just scary because people are dying of COVID. That's scary enough, but that's less beds for people that are overdosing, for people that are just getting in car accidents. Like, just, it's not just the chance of dying of COVID, it's the chance of just needing normal medical care, living your normal life, and having that system being fucked up because of negligence, essentially.
Yeah.
But you're right that something needs to be done, because I think Dina Hinshaw can only keep saying, Albertans need to be responsible. Albertans, be more personally responsible. Okay, you've been saying that for a year, lady. They're not fucking listening.
I've lost my patience with that woman, to be honest. She seems, I'm sure she's done a lot. Like, I'm sure why she seems so miserable right now is because she's exhausted. But, like, I don't know, man. Like,
well, she's definitely just, like, kind of providing a lot of cover.
Yeah,
a little bit.
If you are this person and your frustrations are at a 9 because your voice isn't feeling heard in amongst the boys club that Jason Kenney has, like, I get it, but fucking speak your mind.
Speak it up.
Like,
yeah,
but speak up. Like, be honest, because who cares? If he fires you, then that's just the true colors there. Like,
exactly.
if you are this person, like, it's kind of sad that you're just going to let little Kenny fucking tell you what to do and tell you how it is. And I know that that's easier said than done in a lot of cases, and we know how much that goes on in our world. But come on, Dina, like, fucking do something about it if that's the case. Because, like,
that's what you're saying. Is like,
you're losing a lot of support. Because I remember how many people fucking loved this woman at the beginning of this pandemic.
They want to buy shirts with her name
like,
on it.
And I get it. Like, there was an element where she provided a bit of freshness and hope, and it wasn't Jason that you had to see on the TV. But
I think that's
Christ, man,
her, probably.
I'm just like, I'm done with her too. And
well, that's the thing. People make the argument that she's like between a rock and a hard place because, like, she wants to provide education and information to people from her scientific background, but then also she gets pushback from Kenny and his crew. So then they try to say, well, she's just worried that if she gets fired, then somebody like more useful to them will take her place. But it's just like, well, then fucking do it then. Like, that's the thing. You're not accomplishing anything by half-assing it right now. Again, you're right.
Yeah.
It would show their true colors. And that would probably be lost on most people. They wouldn't even notice. They would just, we got a new chief medical officer, and now all of a sudden she's agreeing with everything Kenny says, but people wouldn't think of it that way. But yeah, you're right. Like, if you actually are a science-based advocate, then fucking speak your mind. And
that whole sector speaks to bigger problems too. I mean, the fact that someone like that, Minister of Health,
she's Chief Medical Officer.
Or Chief Medical Officer, sorry. Minister of Health is fucking Tyler Shandro.
Yeah.
Chief Medical Officer has anything to do with politics is again beyond me. Like, I get it. Like, you have your assignments and shit, but like, I don't want politics involved with the direction of what I can do to better my health.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that should be a scientist with no political interest whatsoever. And I'm sure Dina Henshaw potentially was that person, but unfortunately she's not anymore, because she's not doing it for her, like, she's not doing it in the eyes of science, in my opinion, anymore. She's doing it in what may not upset Jason Kenney as much.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a deeper conversation there to be had about how I think some people kind of mythologize science as being this impartial, objective system, but even science itself is subject to political pressures, and it is political in nature sometimes. Like as far as like, I mean, who determines what gets investigated, right? Like that is a political question. But you're right in that, like, I guess like partisanship, like party politics, playing a role in that
Yeah,
science
and
is
that's what I
is
mean more so. I get that science and politics go hand in hand in a lot of ways,
Mm-hmm.
but
But yeah, you're right in the sense, and I guess at the end of the day, it's kind of just a lose lose. Like I don't think there's anything that woman could do. Like,
no.
and that's the nature of power, right? She either speaks her mind and loses her job, or she plays this kind of lukewarm, half-assed game and people die. Like you kind of.
But it's just it loses your faith in the trust in that sense because it's just like she speaks her mind and like I don't know. You're right, she gets fired, but my hope would be that people would see that. But you're right, they probably wouldn't. They would just see, oh, there's a new.
Yeah, because most people and like they're the right ones. Like it's like a special kind of fucking mental illness to care this much about fucking politics. But like, it's because most people just are going to their job. They're fucking hanging out with their family. They're just living their lives. They don't have time to fucking pay attention to the nitty gritty minutia of this bullshit.
Yeah.
And I try to keep that in mind when I think about like that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's one of those situations. Just well, this sucks.
Yeah. Anyways, we should probably
Yeah, let's wrap her up
this
here on that
Um,
delightful note. But
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. We we wanted to talk about what we got going on.
Yeah, just kind of we're gonna take a little change in direction here, just because I don't know. I've been having a good time putting out these episodes, but we're kind of stretching ourselves between two poles of like kind of like reacting to current events and news and things like that, like just like kind of the more Western Albertan politics stuff, but also like we're just a couple of like media art nerds that like to talk about movies and music and shit like that, and we're kind of I feel like those two are kind of getting a little mixed up, so we're gonna like take a new direction here. I don't know, you can probably lay that out a little bit better.
Yeah, I think we're just gonna split it up. I think there's also like to be transparent, like we're also a bit stretched with our own personal time and both working full time jobs. So I think we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna take that 93 to infinity and segment and kind of come with a new, fresh element to it, but still similar vibes, and have it as its own kind of podcast under our same name kind of thing. And then we're going to take the Alberta Burton of the Week and just Alberta politics and wrap that into its own podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And then moving forward, we'll just have a podcast every other Wednesday. And in a month, you'll get one of each. You'll get a 93 to Infinity podcast, and then you'll get a West Loop or whatever we end up calling the Alberta Politic podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll still see us twice a month. It gives us way more time to plan. I think honestly, like gives us more time to invest into each podcast, which will just make for a better podcast. And it gives two uh, completely different podcasts. So even as a viewer, if you like both, great. But if you like one or the other, you know you're getting something from us once a month, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, that's basically it. Just kind of sharpening the aims of each one and
yeah,
separating them. So, and even like for the West Loop one, it's not even so much like I don't know, people get turned off by the P word, but not even so much a political, but just kind of like essentially how I'm thinking of it is 93 to infinity. We're going back to 93, kind of reflecting on the past and moving forward. And then the West Loop is kind of staying in the loop of like what's happening now. So it doesn't need to necessarily be politics, but just kind of like any news, like anything that's going on
yeah.
right now. And then the other one is kind of reflecting on how we got here, kind of thing. So,
And then yeah, the 93 to Infinity, we're gonna bring more. I don't know, like not necessarily comedic elements, but fun elements throughout our past. Like I think we will try to avoid the P word on that podcast as much as possible,
mm-hmm.
and we'll just kind of focus more on like, just like Kale said, like media and art and like movies and music and just
A
all of
different
that
P
kind of
word, pop
yeah,
culture.
yeah, pop culture. There you go. We'll
Yeah.
kind of focus more on that. I mean, throughout our times, we've been quite invested into a lot of different areas, and coming up on anniversaries of bigger things, it'll bring up quite interesting topics of conversation that I think people would like to listen to. So
Yeah. So yeah, that's the direction moving forward. If you want to stay updated on all that stuff, just give us a follow on our little accounts. Give the old subscribe on YouTube and check us out on Instagram and Twitter. And
yeah, and you guys can look forward to our first 93 to Infinity episode next week, and then after that, it'll just be every other week. You'll hear from us going forward.
yeah, new episode every other Wednesday. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
I like it.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, give us a follow on all the socials. Hit up the Linktree link to see all of our accounts. You can listen to us on Spotify or listen and watch us on YouTube. Yeah, give us a like, subscribe, share with your friends, all that bullshit.
All that fun stuff.
We will see you guys with a little refresher next week.
Remix.
See you, folks.
Okay, have a good week. Bye.